And welcome back to my channel. Unless you're new here, and then just welcome. My name is Rusty, and this is my channel where I talk about my favorite movies, mostly horror, and my favorite music, mostly metal. And welcome to day 3 of the Dead Festival. And we are moving on with Day of the Dead. I've chosen 9, I think, of this little universe of films. Remakes, reboots, sequels, side-alongs, all that kind of stuff that I've been excited to talk about and give my thoughts on. And we are going to move on, like I said, with Day of the Dead. Now, Day of the Dead was released in 1985. This is the collector's edition with the reversible cover. And it was released in 1985. Like I said, it was written and directed by George A. Romero, and it stars Laurie Cardille, Terry Alexander, and Joseph Pilato. Disclaimer: I'm afraid I'm going to possibly upset some people. This is probably one of my lowest rated of these 9. And, yeah, I have issues with this movie, I admit. I have it. I love it. It is a classic. I enjoy watching it. But unlike pretty much all of the rest, and that includes some that y'all don't even like, I have less issue with those than I do with this. The issues that are in this movie are really hard for me to sidestep when I'm trying to enjoy watching it. So, this movie begins with Dr. Sarah, Sarah, and whom we later find out is Bill and John, setting down in Fort Myers to hunt for survivors. This all takes place 7 years after Dawn of the Dead. Instead, though, they don't find any. All they find is hordes of really freaky zombies. And so they return to their base in the Everglades, where they discover that while they were gone, Major Cooper, who had been in control of the military side. It's sort of like a military base and scientific base, but these scientists are being protected by these military guys. So this Mayor Cooper is dead. Major Cooper is dead. And we see her. He's kind of like he's her boyfriend, but he's one of the military guys, and it's Miguel. Number 1, I do not like him. I'm sorry, but that dude's acting skills were shit. Okay? I just really didn't like him. But anyway, he's going mental with all of the stress from all of this, and it's very obvious, kind of too obvious. That's what I meant. His acting skills aren't that great. We find out that John, the Jamaican guy, I guess he's Jamaican, but he's got that accent anyway, and he is a smartass, but he's really cool. But he's a smartass. I like that character. We're then introduced to Dr. Logan, who believes that he can make these Zeds docile and train them. And we get introduced to one of the most hated characters to me in horror, and that is Captain Rhodes. I mean, I remember what I said earlier. Remember what I said earlier about you probably don't want to be around me if you have issues, if some kind of apocalypse happens, because I'm the first one that'll go, really? No 911? No state troopers coming after me? Say it. Say it. Say it. I know that makes me a bad person or something, but it's just like I'm one of those that would be like, okay, if law and order is no more, say it. Just say it. You just have to trust that I am a moral person who wouldn't do it unless you deserved it, but say it. And Rhodes would have been capped in 5 minutes. That's all it would have took his mouth to make me go, nah, he's not worth surviving anything. So I really hated him. He is like a total asshole. I can't stand him. Most of his other little macho machismo military buds, they're capping material as well. So he's in charge now. She does not like she doesn't like Logan's plan. She's not really about all of this. She wants to find a cure. She's got really good scientific motives about all of this, and she doesn't like that Logan is spending all of this time trying to, train them and domesticate them, when what she wants is to find a cure. She then finds out that he's also been experimenting. They call him Dr. Frankenstein because, yeah, it's well deserved. She also finds out that he's not only been experimenting on these Zeds that they keep down in this little corral to be brought up and used for experiments, but he's also been experimenting on any of the soldiers that get killed as well. She decides to keep this secret, however, because look at Rhodes. You know what I'm saying? These military guys find out what you're doing to their buddies' bodies. It's not going to turn out well. So she knows that, and so she kind of keeps that quiet. There's a lot of extreme tension between the scientists and the military guys, except for Miguel, who's just a nutcase. She goes and actually talks with John and Bill after a particularly nasty scene with Rhodes. And they admit to her that they don't believe in any of this. That they don't believe in searching. They understand searching for a cure, but they don't believe that that's possible. And as far as the rest of the stuff, they don't believe in any of this, and that they want to get out of there. And why doesn't the three of them just get in a helicopter and go find a deserted island somewhere and start over in peace away from all of this? So she knows where they stand, and she kind of agrees, but she really wants to help people. Logan, he tries to impress Rhodes with Bub. Bub is this domesticated zombie that he has been able to get to kind of be docile and perform like a rudimentary human behavior, like a dumb pet. The scenes with him are, we'll talk about that in the end, but the scenes with him are hard for me to get through because it's so. So he tries to impress Rhodes with Bub, his docile Zed, but Rhodes is not impressed at all, like anything would. Now we get to the sort of turning point in the movie, and that is where Miller and Johnson, two of his men, are killed when Miguel, who should have been locked away quite a while earlier, screws up and lets one of the Zeds loose, and it gets a hold of these two guys and it kills them ugly. Miguel is also bitten in the arm and runs off. So she ends up chasing him, and she has to cut his arm off with a machete. She does it really quick. It reminds me of another movie where that happened in. I can't think of it right off the top of my head. But something happened and the person did that really quick to try to stop themselves from getting infected. We'll see if it comes back to me. I doubt it will, though. I'm too sick right now to think correctly. So he demands, Rhodes gets so pissed at this incident that he takes them all hostage, and he demands that all the Zeds are destroyed, and that John fly him and his men that will fit in the copter anyway, out. And to do that, he's willing to kill. He even kills her assistant, who had done nothing wrong. He was a good guy. He kills him to prove to John that he wasn't going to do that because of what he found out about Logan. They all found out that he was feeding soldiers' flesh to him. That's how he was getting him to, that was his reward for learning these domesticated little tricks. And Rhodes, like, M16s him, like, fills him completely full of lead. So he kills Logan. And then, like I said, he locks down the facility. He takes all of the scientists' guns. He puts... Who did he put in there? He put Anna and Bill into the zombie corral, and then starts trying to make John take him and his friends, his military guys, out. And when he refuses, and Miguel, of course, he's run off. You know what I'm saying? He's completely gone. So, puts them in the corral, orders Steele to beat John into submission. While this is all going on, Bub frees himself, the zombie, the Zed. He frees himself and goes over there, walking out the room, and he finds Logan's body, which freaks him out. So he actually shows a little bit of emotion, and he gets the gun, and he's like going for revenge, right? So Miguel has snapped, and he goes to the surface, and the soldiers go after him, but he manages to get to the gate because he wants to top himself, and everybody else, obviously. So he opens up the gate, and he lets the Zeds in, but he leads them. He had planned this out, so he leads them to the trellis, the platform that goes down, and he just lays down and lets them eat him, and then mashes the button that's going to put the platform down and turn them loose inside the facility, which is what he does. So hundreds of Zeds enter the facility, and they attack. You know, when he activates he lets them attack him, and then he activates the elevator, letting them into the complex. Rhodes, when he sees all this going down, he actually abandons his men to be killed. But unbeknownst to him, he's being chased by Bub, and Bub actually manages to shoot him a couple of times. And right before he gets away, which is very well deserved, he runs into a horde of zombies, and they like rip him to shreds. Right after Bub shoots him in the stomach and salutes him, which is one of the tricks that Dr. Logan had taught him, was to salute. So he's torn apart, and I mean torn apart. And then Bill and John and Sarah, they make an escape. John goes into the corral, finds them, rescues them. They make an escape to the surface, get in the chopper, and they go, and she wakes up after a little jump scare dream. She wakes up, and they are on this tropical island, and the other two are fishing, and it looks like this island is uninhabited. So there are no Zeds, unlike what happened in Dawn of the Dead. And yeah, the movie ends there. And I gave it a 7.9 out of 10. And that is probably my lowest rating, or one of the lowest ratings of any of these. And that is because, I'm sure, if you've stuck around, you're like going, okay, he said he was going to piss people off. What's your problem with Day of the Dead? I understand these are low-budget indies, and God forbid me, who thinks the Nail Gun Massacre is a masterpiece, is going to crap on low production values. But it's my party and I'll cry if I want to. So the things that I still love this movie, but Jesus, the bub character, the special effects in this movie, the makeup, the zombie makeup, half of them looked, okay, I'm going to trash some stuff. Half of them looked like they came off the set of Quest for Fire with Ray Don Chong. I mean, they all look like Neanderthal cavemen. And I'm like, that's not a zombie. With the big caveman forehead and stuff like that. Well, what are you saying? That these zombies like devolve? Because let me tell you, all those Zeds walking around, the ballerina and the marching band boy or girl, whatever, because they were all like, you could tell that they were dressed in whatever they were in their daily life. You had the ballerina one that came doing that dance around the corner, and I was like, that was silly. That was funny, but it was silly. But, it's like the zombie virus doesn't devolve you into a caveman. So I took a lot of issue with the special effects in this movie, mostly the makeup effects. I thought the zombies looked terrible in this movie. They were so cheap. That's exactly what it looked like. They just looked so fucking cheap. And Bub with his little side thing, I was like, it was just fucked up. And I was like, look, I'm trying to enjoy these scenes with this Bub character, and I can't stand to look at it because it looks so cheap. I mean, it looks like you just went and got some kind of gray shoe polish and like dapped it all over his face and made it like jaw sideways. And I'm like, what fuck is that, man? I mean, what? It's like, it literally looked like they spent less money on the zombie makeup effects than they did on the fucking hot dogs for catering for the crew, And I'm like, look, like I said, Gutterballs fan, Nail Gun Massacre, I have no problem with low budget movies made with because I swear to God, I've told people, I'm like, okay, I mean, I admit, I think the Nail Gun Massacre was made for $5.75. But it is such a joy to me to watch. I love that movie. It's a fucking masterpiece. But there's just a difference between being cheap and just doing it wrong. You know what I mean? I mean, the makeup effects were horrible in Day of the Dead. It was just horrible. I feel sorry for George Romero, because I'm like, dude, I understand it's a B movie, but good God. And I think what they did, I think one of the things is, I would just look at a person and go, how dare you make fun of Captain Kirk, right? Con! And I'm like, the stuff that these people did, especially Rhodes, it's like, oh, come on, man. His portrayal of this asshole was so over the top. I mean, I can't think of anybody who wasn't a Cap team saying the shit that he did. And it was just so over the top. A lot of the acting was bad in this movie as well. John and Bill and Sarah were great. Fantastic actors. Most of the soldiers, a couple of them were terrible. The two ugliest ones, the one in the corral scene that was screeching, and that one that talked dirty all the time, they were disgusting. But most of the soldiers acted good. The scientists all good. The Dr. Logan was, and I think that's what I'm trying to say. A lot of this stuff was comically bad. And it made me wonder if it was on purpose, is what I'm saying. Because it was comically bad. Bad acting. Bad makeup effects. The zombies in Night of the Living Dead. Now I realize this was 5 years before Night of the Living Dead remake. However, the Night of the Dead remake was, as I just said, only 5 years. And yet its makeup effects on the zombies was so much better. There was absolutely nothing wrong with the makeup effects in Night of the Living Dead in 1990. But yet the zombie makeup in this movie was comically bad and hard to look at. Then you got the bad acting, the over the top silliness, and that's I'm not sure if that's what he did. I'm not sure if that was on purpose. I might would feel better about it if it was on purpose, like Nail Gun Massacre or Gutterballs. Maybe if it was, but I thought it was serious because there's a great deal of this movie that's very, very serious. So I'm like, why do you have Dr. Logan looking like he came out of Rocky Horror Picture Show? You know what I mean? And this Bub character is the horriblest makeup I've ever seen. It was just like, my kids could do better on Halloween than that. And I didn't understand why a film production would be so comically bad about some of these things, while some of the other scenes, some of the other writing, some of the other special effects were phenomenal. So that's why I have a problem with this movie, is because it confuses me. There are scenes in which I'm like, they're so bad that it's hard for me to watch. And then there's like really engrossing storylines and scenes that I really, really am enthralled with. And like I really like Sarah's character. I like Bill and John. So it causes a dichotomy whenever you run into a movie that gives you all this good stuff and good vibes, and then you have this really terrible stuff that's hard to. They sort of interfere with each other, and that's what this movie does to me. My love and my distaste gets interfered with because they sort of cross circuit each other and causes little short circuits in my brain. Because if you had had decent zombie makeup, if you had had the zombie makeup from Night of the Living Dead in this, and if you had had acting from Night of the Living Dead in this, it would have been a fantastically serious, scary horror movie. And as another thing, the gore in this, unlike that, was just silly. It was silly. It's like, oh yeah, you're pulling Rhodes apart. You actually pulled his lower half off of him, and he's still yelling shit. And I'm like, that's just not going to happen. Okay? That's stupid. It's not cool. And the other guy getting his, the asshole that I told you that was talking dirty all the time, that disgusting looking dude, when he's getting, eaten and ripped apart, he's like cackling and giggling, even like when they're ripping his eyeball out and shit like that. And a lot of that gore was just like, okay, you crossed the line. Not that it's like, oh, you're making me nauseous. No, it's, oh my God, you have a bunch of people eating ketchup-covered Brockwurst sausage links and trying to scare me, trying to gross me out. It's so fake that how are you going to gross me out by an idiot who can't act eating ketchup-covered sausage links? I can tell they're ketchup-covered sausage links, so it's not grossing me out. It's just over-the-top silly. And some of the gore was cool, and then some of it was like that, where you're just like, really? Really? He turns to his side and his guts all fall on the floor. You don't think that, maybe that's it. You don't think that the audience is intellectual enough to know that that right there was just ridiculous and it was just done for shock value? And if it had had the kind of production value of something where the stuff could have looked real, you may have indeed shocked someone. But if you're trying to be, a Siberian film, or you're trying to, be something like that, something to really and truly shock, the gore was just not cool, It was over the top. Whereas Night of the Living Dead was perfect. It was just perfect. Maybe this movie was too bright. It was too well lit. A lot of Night of the Living Dead, well, it's at night. So the gore isn't, the gore is there, and the gore, it looks like it looks. But I just thought of that, actually. This is a very bright movie, a very bright, well-lit movie. And when you have people eating ketchup-covered Brockwurst sausage links, it's pretty obvious that that's what they're doing. I mean, it just... So yeah, I love this movie, but I don't. But I do. And yet I don't. But I do. So it's confusing. So let me know what you think about Day of the Dead. Its biggest fault to me, like I said, was the silly gore. Because there's a big difference between gore and silly gore. But most important, I think the thing that downed me the most about this movie was the very, very terrible, really terrible zombie effects. The makeup was just, it was so Family Dollar. That's all that I got to say, about that. But as far as a script, goes, as far as, a story, it is a masterpiece, story-wise. But casting choices, unless I said, and somebody can fill me in, please, if this was on purpose, I can let a lot of it pass. But I thought it was supposed to be serious. And, it didn't seem like it was serious. Because his others, George A. Romero's others, Land of the Dead, Survival of the Dead, Diary of the Dead, those are fantastic. And they're serious, and they're scary, and they're cool, So this is sort of like the black sheep, in that it just doesn't seem to be serious, and it really showed that it didn't seem to be serious. So, I don't know. Like I said, it would be, if I'm going to rank, because, when I do the last one, I will also rank these movies. This one will be towards the bottom. Because it just had distracting. The makeup was so distracting. The silliness and bad acting was so distracting compared with the good sides of the film, that it just really interfered in my enjoying it as much as I would like to enjoy it. But I like watching it. I look at it for its silliness, and I look forward to seeing the scenes and the acting and the storylines and stuff in this movie that I do like. And I just have to not look at Bub when he's on the screen. So, I will see you in the next one. Let me miss you bye. Always remember and never forget, you're a very, very special person, no matter what anybody tells you. And yeah, you really are. And let me know if I made you mad that I am not a super fan of this movie. I like it, I own it, I paid for it, I love it, but I don't. So, there are parts of it I love and there are parts of it I don't. So, or, well, no, I'd say there are some things about it I love and some things about it I don't. There you go. And I will see you. Land of the Dead will be next, and I will talk to you then. Bye-bye.